You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, GH fans. It's Belinda from Soap Dirt, and I want to talk about Ava Jerome and what's ahead for her. You know, Ava's never long without a man, and although she wasn't exactly gung-ho about Austin, he certainly was persistent, and I think that's what kept him in her life. But with him dead and soon to be buried, who's the next guy in her life? Who's her next romance? And will she finally choose a decent guy or another scoundrel? Let's talk about it. And if you haven't, please click subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates. So, you know, we only saw Ava and Austin in bed the one time that I can remember, but I think there might have been more off-screen action because she did agree to that double date with him and Nina and Sonny. And he was being pretty affectionate with her at that date and in other encounters, and she was letting it happen. So although they didn't show a ton of it on screen, I do think that they were quasi-dating. And I think she was seeing him partly to make sure he kept quiet about her supposedly murdering her ex-husband, Nicholas Cassadine. Of course, that wasn't true since Austin saved the guy. But now Ava doesn't need to waste any time mourning Austin's death because it wasn't like they were in love or anything. He was just a lying blip on her very bad man radar. And before that, it was Nicholas who was so nasty towards her that she tried to kill him. Let's not forget she had serial killer Ryan Chamberlain in her bed, thinking he was good twin Kevin Collins. It's not like Ava has great taste in men. You know, Morgan was a disaster. He was not bad, but he was troubled, and she was bad for him. Maybe Ava should get a professional matchmaker to fix her up with someone because she has terrible taste and inappropriate taste. I think Griffin Monroe might be the only decent guy she was ever with, and that blew up. And then, you know, he ended up with her daughter, so kind of a mess. So I do have a few ideas of who Ava might romance several of these I'd like to see her involved with, and a couple of them I definitely would not, but I think they're worth discussing. So number one, the new guy in town. This guy who seems to be, if not the big boss, definitely a boss at Pikeman. His name is Brennan, Mr. Brennan. No, I don't know if that's first name or last name. They just gave us Brennan, played by Charles Major. He's just the sort of handsome bad boy rapscallion that Ava might find attractive. If you don't recognize him, he was on Desperate Housewives and the sci-fi show V, and he's got that hot Aussie accent. You know, he lurked at Kelly's making small talk with Carly, but he wasn't flirting with her. I think he was more assessing her as whether she might be leveraged to use against Sonny if the Pikeman Arms deal went south, and of course it did. But he may spot Ava, find her attractive, and then find out she's close to Sonny and may try to get close to her. I mean, there's no word yet if he's staying, but since they've just resuscitated the Pikeman plot, maybe he will. I mean, wait and see. He's sexy, and they went with an actor who's recognizable to a lot of people. He's not a huge brand name, but I definitely knew his face. So I feel like we could be seeing more of him, at least for a while. So maybe him and Ava. I'd be okay with that. The second one I want to talk about, which I don't like the idea of, but I do think it's worth discussing, is Morgan Corinthos. He may be single soon. We all know it's overdue that he has to find out that Nina reported Carly and Drew to the SEC. I expect it'll end their marriage, at least for a while. I do think eventually he might forgive Nina, but we'll see. Not in the short run. Sonny's one of the few single / soon-to-be single, age-appropriate men in Port Charles that Ava could date. They've never had a romance. They had a bunch of hate and one round of hate sex in a crypt that led to making Avery Corinthos. But I don't know if I'd mind seeing them together or not, but I don't think Ava would betray Nina that way, so I don't think it's going to happen. I like them more as co-parents that still kind of have an edge of dislike for each other. So, you know, unless they wound up in bed together one more time and he got her pregnant again, which would really annoy me because Sonny just, you know, he breathes near a semi-fertile woman and then 9 months later we know what happens. So the third person I also hate the idea of, but because he's age appropriate and in Port Charles, I have to mention him, and that is Cyrus Renaud. Oh, Cyrus is single, and he would be a terrible, terrible choice for Ava, but he's got that certain charisma. Jeff Kober does such a good job as uber villain Cyrus. And no, I don't think Ava would look twice at him, but he might look twice at her. If they did something with Ava and Cyrus, I think it would be something creepy, like him stalking her, pursuing her without her consent. You know, I do not think she'd ever willingly climb in bed with Cyrus because I think she's terrified of him. And of course, she knows Sonny would freak out. But if you get enough Martinas in Ava, there's no telling what she might do. I think the only way Cyrus would get any of her time is if she were inebriated and just made a bad choice, or if he did something super sketchy and drugged her, because we do know he's a drug dealer, and then he might do creepy things to her. I mean, that sounds very Cyrus-y to me. So... But I do feel like for Ava to get good action, we're probably going to need some more men on the character canvas. So let's talk about that because there are two people that I think would be great for her. The first one is Nicholas Cassadine. Of course, we've been wondering when Nicholas was going to come back to town. There are several front burner storylines that he's needed for. There's the whole deal with Esme and his son Ace. There's Spencer and his daddy issues. And there's talk that Nicholas might be one of 3 characters returning to the canvas in a recent casting leak that I covered. And I will put that video up at the end so you can see it. You can also find it on the playlist or in the main area of, you can just scroll down till you see it. But Nicholas and Ava, you know, they had something. I do think they really loved each other, but then they wound up divorced before he was dead, then not dead, then left town. And the reason that they split was mostly about him knocking up Esme Prince and, of course, lying to Ava about them doing the deed. I mean, admittedly, he was at a low point when he let Esme slither naked onto him. And, you know, she was doing it on Ryan Chamberlain's orders, but still. I think Ava and Nicholas shared a deep passion, and I think they could get back to it. But I don't know, because I'd kind of like to see Nicholas get with his baby mama, Esme, and give that a chance so Ace could grow up with his parents together instead of a surrogate dad in the form of his big brother, Spencer. So the last one I want to talk about is the one I think I would like Brennan, the pikeman guy, but this one I would actually like better. The 5th one I want to talk about is Lorenzo Alcazar. I think he would be a great match for Ava if Ted King is indeed coming back to General Hospital. We've been hearing rumors since August, right? And we'll know soon if these panned out, since 2 of these returned actors are supposedly already back on set shooting. So Alcazar is presumed dead, but we didn't see him shot on screen. It was just sound effect of gunshots and a thud. Jason got rid of his body, but we didn't see that. And when you don't see a corpse on a soap, you know it's open season for a resurrection later. Even if you see a corpse, even if you watch them flatline, they brought back Jake that way. They have brought back people that we watched die, like completely and knowingly die, come back. So yeah, I don't see Alcazar's supposed death as much of an obstacle to his return. I still hope he's the big guy at Pikeman, the guy Brennan works for, Mr. Pikeman himself. Maybe he changed his name after he was gunned down and, you know, barely made it out of Port Charles with his life. We'll see. I really hope they're bringing him back. And Ted King is exactly the kind of silver fox who could lure Ava into his bed, into his life, maybe creep into her heart. And, you know, whether he's Pikeman, whether he's Alcazar, using the name Pikeman, I don't see Carly giving him the time of day ever again. But he's gorgeous. And let's face it, Maura West could have chemistry with a houseplant. She is mesmerizing to watch, I think. Plus, Alcazar and Ava could have a great smush name. Maybe Avazar or Alcava. I like Avazar better. So tell me, who do you want to see Ava Jerome in a romance with next? Is there anyone on the current character canvas that you think would be a good match for her? Or do we need new blood in town if Ava is going to have another guy in her life? Be sure to click subscribe if you haven't already. Drop your comments on Ava's next romance and come back soon because we are here talking GH 7 days a week. As always, this has been Belinda from Soap Dirt.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.